Every now and again, as you all are aware, I get something that's a little bit goofy, and today we're on a mission to figure out what do these particular people have on their house. The reason that we're bringing this question up to the forefront is we have records for 2 different systems on this property. We have a seepage bed or we have a dry well. The records aren't really clear if we have one or the other. Maybe we even have both. So I'm going to take you with me today while we try to figure this one out, and hopefully we can give these people some clarity onto what on earth do they have underground in their front yard. The first thing we have to do is do a walk around the property, see what are we working with and where might this thing actually be hiding. The records say it's up front. Maybe we'll get lucky, see something obvious, but come on, let's go take a look. The very first thing we're going to see is a weird depression in the ground. So we can see here that we have ourselves a depression, meaning something is here. We see some lines on that side, and then we'll see some dirt that has like a weird discoloration in the grass over here, right there. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take our probe, we're gonna push down, and that sounds like a tank to me. The next step is gonna be to take our pink flags, mark out the edges, and make sure we know what we're working with. So I'm gonna mark this out real quick, and then we'll figure out how this thing's oriented. Now that we have the edges marked, it's gonna make it a lot easier to figure out where are the lids on this tank. The lids on a septic system are always gonna be in the middle of the tank. So when you're trying to figure out how do you open the thing, what you gotta do is you gotta figure out what direction is it facing. So if we know where the edges are, we just gotta start in the middle. Boom, problem solved. We can see here that this is our front edge, back line area. So this should be the middle, which is what they're usually going to pump the tank out of. That's going to be a big lid. Back here should be a tiny lid. That'll make our life a little bit easier to work with. So we're probably going to work on just digging this side versus this one, because again, our objective is to figure out what is going on back here, not what's going on in here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to grab my tarp and shovel. We'll get this dug up, and hopefully we get some clarity. We got the lid dug up, and it was kind of annoying. Somebody put a large chunk of concrete over top of the lid, which kind of slowed us down. So we spent a good minute getting this hole dug. Now I gotta get my hook, which is gonna be this bad boy right here. We're gonna pop open the lid and hopefully find nothing crazy inside. As you can see, we have our tank dug up. The lid is right here, and hopefully, yep, just like that, it pops right on out. We can see that somebody has replaced the outlet baffle at some point. We can see the polylock extend and lock right down here, and we can see our PVC outlet baffle. That right here was the giant chunk of concrete that was sitting on top of the lid. Really annoying when people do that, but that probably was part of the old baffle. How this used to work is this was a larger lid where something like that was attached to this, and the lid was the baffle. And so when the baffle falls off, you got to put a new baffle, like that PVC one, in place to make sure that all that floating stuff on the top of the water doesn't actually get into the drain field. This particular house does not have a traditional drain field. The records indicate that we have either a seepage bed or a dry well. Now, a seepage bed's kind of like a drain field, except for rather than being separated by 9 foot, 10 foot, they're really close to one another. It'll still have stone, and it will still have a perforated pipe, but most commonly it's gonna be made of clay or Orangeburg pipe. So we could run into some more issues with that because clay pipe, prone to roots. Orangeburg pipe, as we all know, prone to collapse. A dry well, as we've discussed previously, is going to be a large pit in the ground. So that pit is going to be dry stack cinder block with a large lid right on top. On the outside of that block will be stone, so when they put water into the tank, water will then filter out into the pit, work its way through the dry stack cinder block, and the stone is just there to open the soil up so the water can filter into the soil and the soil does its thing. Same concept with the seepage bed, but they're going to be much shallower. So the next step is we're going to go inside, run some water, and see what happens. So I turned on the sink and a tub so that we could see that water's flowing to the septic system. But as you can see, there's a pretty substantial crack in that pipe. It's allowing all that water to work its way on down the rest of the way. That's not good. You don't want to see that at all. So that's going to create a little bit more of a problem than what they had originally expected. But, you know, that's why we don't paint pipes, because stuff like that can get hidden. As you can see, we have a problem with the sewer line, so we're unable to run water into the system. That's going to create a little bit of a problem, because the way you want to check an absorption system, not only do we have to probe it, but we're also going to need to run some water through it to make sure that everything's getting out, nothing's coming up to the surface, and better yet, what condition is that stone in? The next step, now that we don't have water, one, we're gonna have to come back eventually to finish this part, but now what we're gonna do is we're gonna check for, do we have a pit, or do we have a seepage bed, or do we have both? Who knows? Let's grab the probe, take a look. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start with that discolored grass. I'm pretty sure that's where the dry well is. So we're gonna take this probe, stick it in the ground, and if we hit something hard, we're probably in the right spot. So let's take a look. Probing down, we're actually hitting something hard in a fairly large area. So what we're looking for is that sound. That is the top of the dry well, meaning it's right here. Unfortunately, this particular one doesn't have a clean out. Most of these old homes, they didn't usually put clean outs on dry wells until the 70s, 80s-ish. So something of this age, it's not gonna have a clean out. But now we know we have a dry well. So the next part we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna take a look at the place where a seepage bed could be. We can see right down here, a line in the ground and another line right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our probe and we're gonna shove it into the ground. So we got nothing on this one. So we'll go a little bit further down to this guy and try the same thing. Yeah, so what we're hitting now, we can hear the gravel. And when we pull it up, we're gonna see a white residue on the end of the probe. The white residue is going to be from the gravel in the trench. So I guess we actually have two. We have both the seepage bed and the pit on the property. More than likely, probably what happened was they built an extra bedroom, finished a basement, or put an addition on the home. At which point the county would have said, hey, your septic's a little bit too small, you gotta bump up those numbers, meaning 2 absorption systems. Typically, for the age of this home, it makes sense to see a seepage bed, so they probably did something for the dry well, 70s, 80s, give or take. Wasn't until the mid-80s that they were using the modern conventional drain field system. Now that we have all this found though, unfortunately, without running water, we don't really know for sure that it's working. So the next step is we document what we found, put everything back, and come back to see if everything's working. Let me know though, at your house, do you have a dry well? Do you have a seepage pit? If you have a dry well, does your dry well have access on it? And when's the last time you looked at it? Hopefully you found this video informative. I know we didn't really get too much of a conclusion with this, but we ran into a little bit of a plumbing problem that we were not expecting, and I don't think the homeowners were expecting it either, but it's kind of a large problem to where we can't put anything through the septic system until that part gets fixed. I don't think we're gonna run into anything crazy with this one. This house looks pretty clean. The drain field feels dry. The dry well feels dry. There's no evidence of backing up on the tank, so more than likely it's probably fine, but without running water through your system, there's no way to know for sure that everything's draining correctly, because for all we know, there's a collapsed pipe 10 foot back past the tank. That could be a problem. If you don't run water through it or a camera, guess what? You're not gonna see it. And unfortunately for this one, they don't wanna have us running a camera, so we're only able to play with what we can see. Hopefully you found this useful. You know what to do. I have videos posted every day on the World of Well and Septic. Until next time, guys.